How's it going, everybody? It's Sam here, and welcome back to the Morbid...
What do you think you're doing? I'm the one who does the evil builds around here. Got it?
Are you sure? I mean, it's just you haven't done a video like this before, Jay, and you sure you can handle it?
Of course I can. I'm the clown prince of crime, aren't I? I can handle anything.
Alright then, go ahead.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, maggots of all ages, welcome back to the Morbid Fail. Today we bring to you yet another original Skyrim build, the Horrid King. Mirak, the champion of Hermaeus Mora, slowly regained his powers in the vast library realm known as Apocrypha. Despite learning much from his Daedric master, this powerful dragon priest eventually grew weary of serving Hermaeus Mora and sought out knowledge that could aid him in returning to Nirn and freeing himself from Mora's grasp. He found two possibilities. The first would involve using some of Vermina's secrets to brainwash the minds of Solstheim's inhabitants as they slept. The second involved transferring his soul into a powerful vessel once created by Hermaeus Mora himself. Rather than seeking freedom from one or the other, Mirak decided to send some of his lurkers to search for the lost vessel, while he worked with his seekers to brainwash Solstheim into binding the Allmaker's stones to his power. In the 187th year of the Fourth Era, Mirak's lurkers finally discovered the long-lost vessel of Hermaeus Mora. The vessel, according to an ancient tome, was created from the remains of Ysgramor himself. The Daedric prince enhanced the body with the great power that would have allowed him to inhabit it and use it to take over all the realms of oblivion, from Nirn to the Soul Cairn and everything in between. However, Hermaeus Mora failed to consider that his servants would conspire against him. 7 seekers who were free from Hermaeus Mora's complete control worked together to merge their knowledge, power, and wills into the vessel, creating a synthetic soul and consciousness. The seekers killed themselves to complete the ritual and awaken the vessel. Though it was a powerful being indeed, it lacked a true soul, and thus was merely a wild beast with untempered power. Hermaeus Mora defeated the vessel, but was unable to destroy it, so the Daedric prince had it thrown into the deepest depths of Apocrypha, wishing that it would be lost for all time. In an attempt to make the vessel his own, Mirak laid the body at the center of the summit and prepared his seekers for the ceremony. As Mirak's soul began to enter the vessel, something went terribly wrong, and the power of the 7 seekers awakened and immediately began to consume Mirak's dragon souls, including his own. Terrified and in an attempt to save himself, Mirak unleashed his power to destroy the vessel. but inadvertently split his own soul in two and sent the vessel deep into the void. A little over a decade later, the void spit out the vessel into the wilderness of Skyrim. It is there that the unconscious vessel was bound and brought to Helgen along with several other prisoners. After escaping, the vessel wandered around aimlessly, with many memories and voices swimming through his head. With the memories and voices of the 7 Seekers and 9 Dragons, and Mirak's own soul and will trying to assert itself, the vessel was going completely mad, tearing his face up from the sheer agony of it. Eventually, he found peace within the bowels of Blackreach. There was something about the dark cavern that seemed to comfort him and soothe the voices. Soon, the collective minds of the 7 Seekers, 9 Dragons, and the soul fragment of Mirak merged together into a single, perfectly chaotic consciousness. 7 minds, many souls, and infinite power, all inhabiting one body. The vessel mastered insanity and found power that rivaled all of the Divines and Daedric princes alike. As a new, singular entity, he called himself the Horrid King, or in the language of the primordials, Cthul. Now let's talk about gameplay. The Horrid King is a walking nightmare, fueled with the power and knowledge of ancient seekers who could withstand the will of Hermaeus Mora. With the souls of 9 dragons and half of a dragonborn soul residing within him, he has become far more powerful than any could have ever imagined. In his early wanderings, he was a mad beast, killing any and everything that disturbed him. Even a cute little bunny rabbit who was hopping alongside him one day wasn't safe from his terrible wrath. After gaining sanity and unifying all of the power and souls within him, he sets out to bring madness and destruction to Nirn, and eventually claim it as his own. As he travels through Skyrim, the Horrid King does his best to hide his face, knowing that he needs to keep his identity a secret while he gains new power to help him in destroying those who would threaten his claim to destruction, such as Hermaeus Mora and Mirak. Though this does not mean that he avoids all interactions with mortals of Daedra, he learns how to speak to them as a commoner, a warrior, a wealthy official, and a devout servant, developing a silver tongue to rival that of Clavicus Vile. The Horrid King begins to consume the souls of every dragon he can, taking their power into himself and using it to learn their ancient knowledge of the Thuum. As he develops his arcane strengths, he also begins to build up his physical power, taking any chance he can to learn new ways to murder and drive mortals insane. From horrible enchantments and spells to potent poisons, all able to flay the minds of mortals and Daedra alike. He eventually finds himself face to face with a secret guild of assassins known as the Dark Brotherhood, and eventually takes up the mantle of Listener. After all, only the truly deranged and wicked can comprehend the will and voice of the Night Mother and Sithis. From there, he begins to take a slight interest in the Civil War, seeing a chance to bring even more chaos and destruction to the already shattered country. He sides with the Stormcloaks, seeing it as yet another way to topple the Empire and bring himself closer to ultimate power over the decimated world. The Horrid King soon becomes a powerful ally to the Volkihar clan, and over time becomes their new lord, using all their powers to bring more destruction to Skyrim. But very soon he was lured back to Apocrypha by the cultists of Mirac. There, in the realm of forbidden knowledge, the Horrid King kills Mirac and steals not only the rest of his soul, but all the souls of the dragons who he had slain. Still unaware of his true identity, Hermaeus Mora tries to claim the Horrid King as his new champion. But like the seven seekers within him, the Horrid King rebukes the Daedric Prince and his will. Now let's talk about how the Horrid King manipulates, mutilates, and massacres his enemies. At a distance, he uses potent illusion magics to send enemies into a destructive frenzy, causing them to slay their own friends. When in close combat, the Horrid King summons a Seeker and two other Atronachs or zombies, then casts elemental runes and uses his wicked mace and spiderlings to defeat and terrorize his foes. When going up against a powerful enemy, the Horrid King uses one of his many potent poisons to paralyze, terrorize, or weaken them significantly. His favorite poison to use is comprised of human flesh, imp stools, and Morotapinella. When facing against dragons, the Horrid King typically stays away from close combat and poisons, and instead relies on his slow time shout and potent elemental spells. Although he became a vampire, he rarely transforms into a vampire lord, seeing that he is far stronger without taking on that form. The Horrid King was impressed with the heavy Valma armor and decided to take a set of this twisted apparel for himself. Each one is bound with powerful enchantments and enhances already devastating power. From the Leviathan hide to Nyla's boon, the Horrid King is prepared for any and all battles. The Daedric mace wielded by the Horrid King is known as Sanity Crusher. It inflicts devastating fiery soul trap damage, as well as chaos damage. Now let's talk about the perks and stats of the Horrid King. As a result of Hermaeus Mora's manipulation of Iskramor's body, the vessel became more like that of an Altmer. It was stronger in the arcane arts, and as such, the Horrid King became obsessed with learning all he could to improve this power. After becoming a vampire, he focuses on the Restoration School, seeing a wicked potential within it. During his entire time traveling Skyrim, he harnesses potent destruction magics to become a force of unbridled carnage. Though he is a master of all schools of magic, he enjoys a good amount of bloodshed, and as such, he learns to wield a mace excellently. He loves the explosion of brain matter that comes from crashing a skull, and the shower of blood when he decapitates an enemy. Ooh, even I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. But what he loves more than the carnage is the tormentation of life. He crafts devastating poisons to paralyze and terrorize his enemies, and uses potent illusion magics to do the same, warping the minds and perceptions of others, forcing them to kill their own friends and family. Now let's talk about the dreaded powers of the Horrid King. Nightmare Terror is enacted by the Horrid King using mass paralysis, hysteria, stormcall, and summoning the horrors of oblivion to terrify and mutilate the weak and defenseless. Havoc Bound is enacted when the Horrid King calls down a devastating storm, casts mayhem, and summons his terrors. He then sits back and watches as all the horror ensues. Mind Flayer is used primarily on the last enemy and is perhaps the most terrible. It is performed by the Horrid King coating his mace in a potent fear toxin, resurrecting the fallen dead with the ritual stone, then watching as the poor soul can do nothing to escape their imminent death at the hands of their own undead allies. Not long after all of Skyrim was brought to its knees by the Horrid King, the rest of Nirn quickly began to realize that they were in grave danger. The Daedric princes, however, were arrogant and thought they would merely enjoy the show. But the Horrid King had other plans in mind. Hermaeus Mora was the first of the Daedric princes to fall to the Horrid King. His power and knowledge were consumed by Yog Cthul, and all of Apocrypha submitted to its new master. Shigorath, Malakath, Periite, Sanguine, and Clavicus Vile perished soon after, their powers and realms also being merged into the Horrid King and his realm. Boethia, Molag Bal, Merun Stagon, Meridia, and the Divines forged an uneasy alliance. But even they were no match for the Horrid King's power of manipulation, and killed one another in a mad frenzy. So too were their powers and realms absorbed. Mephala pleaded for her life when the Horrid King invaded the Spiral Skein, but he had no desire to listen to her and devoured her completely, mind, body, and soul. Jigalag, who had been freed from his curse of madness centuries earlier, foresaw the coming of the Horrid King, and with his new army of order invaded the Horrid King's realm alongside Hircine. Though the werebeasts of Hircine were vicious and unforgiving, and though the army of order numbered in the millions, they were no match for the Horrid King, who had an army of monsters in Daedra whose numbers were greater than the stars of the sky and the sands of the earth. In a last attempt, Azura and Nocturnal sought to create a talisman that could trap the Horrid King forever. After sneaking into his realm and then into his palace, they attacked and trapped the Horrid King in the Eye of Twilight. Finally, the monster was defeated, and all could be at peace. Or so they thought. Though he was trapped inside of the Eye, the Horrid King could still assert his will from within, and called forth his wives Namira and Vermina. He gave each of them a boost to their power, and the two dark goddesses decimated their master's enemies before releasing him from his tiny prison. As a gift for their undying loyalty, the Horrid King gave Azura and Nocturnal to his wives, letting them consume the flesh, power, and souls of their sister deities. Now there is none to rival Yog Cthul and his rule over existence. His realm of Gehenna is vast and dwarfs the realm of Nirn, which sits as a stone in the center of his ring. All the prayers of madness, destruction, greed, and depravity travel up to him, and many from Nirn make pilgrimages to Gehenna and offer their sons and daughters as sacrifices to Yog Cthul and his devoted wives. All hail Yog Cthul, the monster god of madness, the beast of terror. All hail to the master of the Black Trinity. We hope you enjoyed our wickedly depraved build, the Horrid King. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell icon to be notified of future videos. If you'd like to stay up to date on the channel, then follow us on Instagram. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you all here next time on The Morbid Veil.